Hi, everyone. Welcome to our online engagement event for the Willows Neighborhood Traffic Review. My name is Natalie Bode, and I'm the Senior Transportation Engineer responsible for neighborhood traffic reviews. I'm joined this evening by Katie Sapia. She is the Project Manager for the Willows Neighborhood Traffic Review. And we're also joined by Jillian Petras, another member of the Neighborhood Traffic Review team. Julian will be helping us manage the Q&A forum behind the scenes. And we all look forward to working with you to address traffic issues in your neighborhood. Please note that the meeting will be recorded and posted to the Engage page for the Willows Neighborhood Traffic Review. This will allow anyone who was unable to participate tonight to watch the recording and let us know if they have any additional traffic concerns. Online meetings are still pretty new to us, so we appreciate your patience as we go through everything. To ensure that the meeting runs smoothly and that we minimize technical difficulties with audio, we ask that you please type your comments in the question and answer box, and I will read them out later in the meeting. If you're unable to type your comments in the question and answer box, or if you have any other type of technical difficulties tonight, we ask that you reach out to us through one of our other engagement methods to submit your comments or concerns. We have options for email, phone, online survey, letters, or the Report a Traffic Issue app. And we'll provide details on how to access those methods a little bit later in the meeting. I apologize if you have any delay in your video this evening. It all depends on network connections. And if you are joining us with a cell phone, depending if it's an Android or an iPhone, sometimes when you're typing in your questions, you'll still hear us talking. And with the other phone, it might queue up the recording. And then when you're done typing in your question, that way you don't miss any of the conversation, but then you're not going to be synced with the live recording anymore. So I just wanted you to be aware of that in advance. It looks like we have a fairly good group tonight, a small and mighty group. We have 4 attendees so far, and there might be some others who join us in a little while. We want to know where you are experiencing traffic issues. That's what we're here to hear about tonight. Things like speeding, pedestrian or cycling safety, or traffic safety. You are our local experts in the Willows, and we're relying on your knowledge of the neighborhood to help us identify any problem areas. Please feel free to enter your questions or comments in the chat box, and I'm going to make a couple of introductions while you do that. So Councillor Maren Lowen, who is your council representative, was planning to join us this evening, and oh, it does look like she's here. So thanks for joining us, Councillor Lowen. Would you like to address the group?
Hello, sorry I'm late. I'm just bedtime over here. So I don't have too much that I wanted to say before things kick off, other than this is a good opportunity to try to address some issues that have been fairly long-standing in the Willows area, concerns related to speed and so forth, particularly on the main Cartwright Road. And I'm hopeful that some of the outcomes of this process will be helpful in meeting those needs that residents have identified over the years. And I'm here to listen and to try to shepherd an effective process, but we'll be happy to answer any questions that folks might have. So thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor Lowen. It's always great when the members of council can attend and hear directly from the residents. Often when we have these meetings, we're also joined by a member of the traffic unit of the Saskatoon Police Service so that they can answer your questions about traffic enforcement directly. Unfortunately, Staff Sergeant Nolenberg was unable to join us tonight, and he sends his regrets. So if you do have any traffic enforcement concerns, you can still submit them, and we'll pass them on to Staff Sergeant Nolenberg so that he can consider those for enforcement. All right, so Katie, would you like to share your screen, and then we can provide an overview of the locations of concern that we've heard so far.
Hi everyone. Again, my name is Katie Sapia and I will be the Transportation Engineer and Project Manager responsible for the Willows NTR. Today we will be discussing traffic in your neighborhood, including things you like and issues and concerns you currently have. Right now I'm showing you a map of your neighborhood to get you oriented. The Willows is bound by Lorne Avenue to the west, city limits to the south, Clarence Avenue to the east, and the CN Rail tracks to the north. Cartwright Street runs through the neighborhood here, and with the roundabout is located here, and Cartwright Terrace is here. Some of the issues we have heard regarding speeding. Sorry, I think it's just going a little slow. There we go. Some of the issues we heard regarding speeding are speeding on Cartwright Street between the roundabout and Clarence Avenue, speeding on Cartwright Street between Lorne Avenue and east of Lorne where Cartwright Street splits, drivers drifting through the roundabout, and stunting in the parking lot. We have also heard issues regarding drivers shortcutting through the neighborhood. Drivers will shortcut through the neighborhood to avoid the trains at Lorne Avenue and use the crossing at Clarence Avenue instead. Drivers will shortcut through the Willows to avoid traffic at the intersection of Clarence and Melville Street, specifically to avoid southbound traffic turning east into Stonebridge. And we have heard of drivers hauling water tanks traveling through the neighborhood to access the water supply on Clarence Avenue. With regards to pedestrian safety, we have heard about the lack of sidewalks throughout the neighborhood. We have also received feedback from some residents that they are content with the sidewalks in the neighborhood, given the minimal amount of foot traffic. We have heard of the lack of sidewalk on Lorne Avenue, connecting Cartwright Street and Melville Street. We have also had a request for a pedestrian crosswalk in front of the Woodbridge condos, since the condos are on one side of the street and the sidewalk is on the other side of the street. Other feedback we have received include insufficient street lighting between the Willows Golf Course and Lorne Avenue. And we have also received positive feedback regarding the snow removal and street cleaning in your neighborhood. These are some of the concerns that we have heard so far, and we are here tonight to gather more feedback from you so that we can create a plan for gathering traffic data and performing site observations before coming back to talk with you again. We will also be using Google Maps so that we can zoom into any locations you have concerns about. I'd now like to open up the floor for comments and questions, which Natalie will be gathering through the chat box. All your comments and questions will be documented in the project file and reviewed as part of the project.
Okay, thanks for that, Katie. I know Katie speaks a little quickly, so if you need us to repeat anything, we can do that. I'm just gonna check the chat box now. I'm not seeing anything yet, but it does take a little minute to type things in. While people are doing that, maybe I will just go over a couple of the comments that we've heard since the slides were prepared. So additional concerns that we've heard either through email, phone, or the online survey is speeding on Cartwright Street in front of Cartwright Terrace. So I think that kind of closes the loop on Cartwright, and there's speeding concerns all the way on Cartwright between Lorne and Clarence. We've heard about noise complaints, loud vehicles going through the neighborhood with no mufflers. So on that one, Katie, did you want to provide an update on the vehicle noise assessment study that we'll be undertaking soon?
Yes, I can. Vehicle noise has been an ongoing issue throughout the city. The existing traffic noise sound attenuation program addresses traffic noise for very specific circumstances. Many locations are not eligible for traffic noise sound attenuation under the existing policy. To address noise for these other locations, we need to investigate traffic noise mitigation strategies that could apply to the entire city. At its regular council meeting on July 27th, council approved that funding for the vehicle noise study be requested through the Municipal Economic Enhancement Program. Once we have funding for the study, we will be looking for a vehicle noise mitigation specialist to conduct research, complete a judicial review, engage key stakeholders, prepare cost estimates, and recommend possible mitigation measures that could be presented for the next budgeting cycle. We hope that these actions will help us make progress on the vehicle noise throughout the city.
Okay, thanks, Katie. Yeah. All right. So I'm not seeing anything in the chat box yet. So I'm not sure if that means the concerns that that are listed are things that they've also seen or heard, and they don't have anything new. There was one other additional concern we received since the presentation was prepared. Construction on Cartwright has made the sidewalk unpassable due to accumulation of mud, dirt, and snow. So we can pass that comment over to our roadways fleet and support services colleagues to get that addressed. And here's a comment through the chat box. Our main concern is with the traffic shortcut between Lord Avenue and Clarence, including cars and large vehicles. How can this be addressed? Did you want to answer that one, Katie, or did you want me to? So we have a couple different options to address shortcutting. It depends what the source of the shortcutting is, and we'll try to track down the reason people are shortcutting. If it's things like avoiding the intersection at Clarence and Melville Street, like Katie mentioned in her presentation, if that's the issue, then we might look at doing a traffic signal timing adjustment or addressing things at that intersection so people stop avoiding it. We also heard from some people that maybe there's shortcutting through the neighborhood because of the condition of Melville Street. There's so many potholes that people might be avoiding those. So Melville Street is actually planned for some reconstruction. So in 2021, between Brand Place and Clarence Avenue, is scheduled for a micro resurfacing treatment. And in 2022, reconstruction is planned on Melville between Lorne and Portage. So depending what the traffic shortcutting issue, what the cause is, we can try to address things. If those aren't the sources of the shortcutting that we're seeing, we can consider traffic calming for Cartwright Street. So things like median islands or curb extensions, or if those are ineffective, we could look at vertical traffic calming as well, which would be things like speed humps or raised crosswalks. So I'm not sure if you all had a chance to review our video series, but there is a video series on the traffic calming measures that we typically use, and that's what we'd be looking to explore. Sorry, that was kind of a long-winded answer for that one. All right, so they just submitted a response that the main reason they've heard about shortcutting is avoiding the trains at Lorne Avenue. Yeah, so we have heard that comment as well. That one's a little bit trickier for us to address because we don't control the rail line. So I think we did have an update about the rail assessment study as well. Let's see if I can find that. So I'm not sure if any of you have seen the rail relocation assessment study. Phase 1 of that was completed, I think it was 1.5 years ago. and they moved on to phase 2. And I think we're planning to take a report about that to committee and council in September. So if you keep your eyes out for that agenda item, might provide some insights there. Yeah, so they also asked, is another track overpass out of the question? So that rail relocation assessment study will address that. You'll see information about that in the report. I can't reveal it yet because it's not a public document, but once it goes to committee and council, then we can make that information available on either the Engage page, or if you want to reach out to us by email, we can make sure you get a copy. We also had another comment in the chat box. We reside on Cartwright Street, and it would seem to us that perhaps some of the traffic may also be from clients car testing from the dealerships nearby. That's a fair point. We're also completing a neighborhood traffic review for the CN industrial area. So that's something we can inquire about from the businesses and clients in that area when we're doing those meetings.
Natalie, can I just make a comment on that one?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, I just wanted to say that this has been brought to my attention by residents in the past in the Willows, and at one point, and this would have been maybe 2 or 3 years ago, we had tried to work with the police service to target some enforcement in the area, and if my memory serves me correctly, SPS actually did target some of those dealerships in attempting to sort of catch this in the act, which was, you know, that the challenge is just being able to do that consistently. But I think that's something we could also revisit, is asking SPS to take a look at that, and perhaps even having conversations with dealerships around the impact of noise in the area and speed. So I can revisit the file on that and see where we left things, because there may be some interim mitigation that could happen on that front.
Okay, great. Thanks for bringing us up to speed on that history there. That's awesome. Okay, so another question that came in through the chat box. Will this review include the intersection of Highway 219 and Grasswood Road? And if so, have you received any safety concerns about that intersection? Would you like to answer that one, Katie?
Sure. No, we will not be doing anything to the intersection as part of the neighborhood traffic review. We're focusing on local and collector roads, but we can forward that information on to the appropriate group to, well, no, actually that one's out of the city limits, so we would not be looking at that one at all, actually. So that would be actually highways that would be responsible for that intersection.
Okay, thanks. All right, so I'm not seeing anything new in the chat box quite yet. So while we're waiting for some other comments, would you like to provide an update on maybe the sidewalk infill? Because we have heard some concerns from residents about missing sidewalks in the neighborhood.
Yeah, I can. So transportation prioritizes missing sidewalk locations using a combination of land use and street context to determine which missing sidewalk locations will have the most impact on safety and walkability of the pedestrian network. Installing sidewalks in existing neighborhoods can be challenging due to the presence of physical constraints, such as trees, utilities, fences. These constraints require careful consideration to ensure that the project is feasible prior to construction. This is why the sidewalk infill program is currently focusing on prioritizing, planning, and assessing the feasibility of sidewalk infill locations. I don't know if you want to add the link to the report.
Yeah, we could maybe provide the link in the chat box here. We also have received approval from council to apply for some NEAP funding for sidewalk infill as well. And that list of locations, sorry, I'm just typing this in the chat box. So, so that'll be our first cut at sidewalk infill. And I don't believe Cartwright Street was on the MEAP application. But we do know that there is some missing sidewalks there, and it's on our inventory of missing locations. So here's the prioritization criteria on how we decide which sidewalks get priority 1. In case that's of interest. Okay. Not seeing anything else in the chat box. I do see that Julian has access to the traffic calming slides from the video. So maybe we could go over some of those horizontal and vertical measures, if you can bring that up, Julian. I don't think we'll go through the whole presentation. Yeah, just the couple slides with devices. Yeah, there you go. Do you want to introduce those, Katie?
Sure. So the first one we have here is the speed display device. This one will tell a driver their speed, and hopefully it will encourage them to lower their speed. We don't put them in permanently in any location because over time drivers will start to ignore the device, and it could result in speeding up again. Here we have some horizontal deflections, curb extensions, median islands, and I can't see what's on the bottom one. They make the road seem narrower to drivers, and then they will hopefully slow down. We monitor the roadways before we check the speed of drivers before and after installation to see if they're effective or not.
Yeah, so they're installed with black rubber curb while we're assessing that. So you've probably seen some of those throughout the city, and if they're effective, they get installed in concrete once we have funding allocated. And if they aren't effective, we can adjust them, change the configuration to see if we can get the speeds dropped adequately. Or if they continue to be ineffective, then we could consider vertical deflection devices. Back to you, Katie.
And then, so this brings us to the vertical deflection devices. These are kind of the last resort for traffic calming. One of the concerns with it is it can slow down emergency response vehicles. So if we can avoid that, that's kind of our goal. But we have raised crosswalks, raised intersections, and speed bump, I believe, is the one at the bottom. I can't see it on my screen here. So
speed hump, yeah.
Oh, speed hump, yeah.
Yeah, some of the other issues with vertical deflection devices, which make them inappropriate in some situations, is they can cause more noise related to braking and acceleration, or sometimes drivers do take them too fast, so they kind of, that bottoming out sound over the speed hump can be an issue. But they do work in some circumstances, and we just installed some last year on Glasgow Street, west of Clarence. So if you do want to check some out, Not that I want to encourage you to shortcut through that neighborhood, but if you do want to see what a speed hump looks like, there are some there. And there's also some on 37th Street west of Junior Avenue. So we have used them sometimes, and they do seem to work well in some circumstances.
And then, yeah, the following one is obstructions, directional closure. So we only allow one-way traffic to only turn right usually. Channelization, right in, right out islands. I can't see the bottom one, so I'm not sure what's at on the bottom ones there.
Raised median through intersection and full closure. So these, obviously these devices won't work for the Willows. With only one road in and out, we won't be looking at obstructions to solve the shortcutting issue. I'm still not seeing any new questions come in. So maybe while we have people's attention, we could go over the next steps for this study, just to make sure everyone can hear that.
All right, so the next steps, the comment period will be open for a month. Once we close the comment period, we will begin our data collection for the study, such as field observations. Because of the changes resulting from COVID-19, we are currently monitoring traffic volumes and behaviors. Once traffic patterns normalize, we will begin to collect traffic and pedestrian data. We are already starting to see things shift back to normal since the reopening has begun. After data collection, we will prepare a draft traffic plan and share it with you at another meeting so that we can gather your feedback. If you would like to be kept up to date via email, please subscribe for updates at the Saskatoon.ca Engage page.
Okay, thanks, Katie. We did have one other question come in through the chat box. Will the new development for the Willows add more traffic to Cartwright Street as well, or will there be another entrance or exit off Lorne Avenue?
So right now, the Willows concept plan, the new development and zoning amendment is still under review. We are working through internal technical items and are hoping to be able to start public consultation on this in the fall. At this time, public consultation would be through mailouts and online. And yeah.
So you'll have details about those accesses and that development through that process, not this one. The neighborhood traffic review process is intended to address existing traffic issues. So that's what we're hoping to resolve.
All right. Any more questions or?
None yet through the chat box. No. You can
All
go
right,
ahead.
then I'll continue on. So please feel free to reach out to us if you have any additional concerns. We encourage you to share the information with your neighbors so that they also have an opportunity to participate. As mentioned earlier, we have multiple methods for submitting comments. You can post comments at Saskatoon.ca Engage page. Subscribe for updates at Saskatoon.ca/NTR. The Report a Traffic Issue app, phone, send an email or a letter, or fill out the online survey. More details are available on the Saskatoon Engage page. If we were unable to get to your question tonight, we will provide a response in the meeting minutes, which will be posted to the Saskatoon.ca Engage page. The meeting recording will also be posted to the Engage page in the next few days. We would like to get your opinion on how the online meeting went. Please let us know by filling out the online survey, which we have posted in the Q&A forum.
Okay, so I added the link to the evaluation form survey and to the Engage page for the Willows Neighborhood Traffic Review in the chat box. And someone else has submitted a comment through the Q&A box. We are interested in sidewalk development at the Willows. We are also supportive of the interim measures to ensure the sidewalk is clean and passable during construction. Thanks for that. It's noted. And I encourage you again to fill out that evaluation survey to let us know how we did tonight. We're always looking to improve our engagement process through the neighborhood traffic reviews, and now with online engagement, we want to see how well it's working for our residents. So please give us some feedback by submitting your input on that link. And I'm not seeing anything else come in. Councillor Lowen, did you want to say anything at this point before we wrap up?
Thanks, Natalie. I don't have too much to add other than what I stated at the beginning, that I'm hopeful this will be helpful in resolving some ongoing issues. If anyone has questions about sort of the council side of the process and how the decision making works around some of these interventions, or if you just like to chat about some non-traffic or traffic related issues in the neighborhood, I'm easy to track down, and I encourage you to do that in the interim. In addition to the links that have been posted by our staff here, you can send any traffic concerns through me, and I will forward them to Katie and Natalie and their team. So feel free to keep us posted, I think is fair to say. And if you lose track of this contact information, you can find me pretty easily, and I'd be happy to connect you with our professionals. So thanks very much for your insights and participation tonight.
Thanks, Councillor Lowen. That's great. Since I'm still not seeing anything new in the chat box, I'm assuming that we've covered most of what the attendees, oh, hang on, something just popped in. Oh, yeah, just a thank you, yeah. So I think that was meant for you, Councillor Lowen. Thank you for your efforts on our behalf. So since I'm not seeing anything new in the chat box regarding questions or comments, I'm assuming that all of the attendees had a chance to submit their information. And if not, there's many other methods, as we've discussed, and are available through that Engage page link. We really look forward to working through these issues with you, and we hope to have a pretty fulsome traffic plan prepared that we can present to you at the second meeting next year. And the more information we have from you, the more likely that we'll have the right solution when we come back to you next year. So on behalf of Katie, Julian, and myself, I would like to thank all of you for joining us tonight. I know it's a nice night and you all have many other things in your lives to do, so we really appreciate you taking the time for participating in the neighborhood traffic review process. Thanks so much, and we'll touch base early next year. If you see Katie in the neighborhood in the meantime, give her a wave, let her know what you think from a distance. And we'll chat soon. Thanks so much.